So good morning, everyone. This is another interview. Today we have Eva Rodriguez, a space lead of FrontierSI, and she's going to talk about the market overview of Australia related to Earth observation applications. My name is Sandra Cabrera, and I am the project lead of ConnectEO, and I have the pleasure to interview Eva in this feature of the Australian market. So Eva, thank you for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So just a very quick overview. FrontierSI is our partner on this ConnectEO project. It's a nonprofit organization in Australia, and particularly among many other areas that they do, and there are many areas that they focus on. One of their areas is space applications. We're going to discuss particularly Earth observation because it's the core of our project, but they have many other applications. So let us get into our interview on the Earth observation market in Australia. So Eva, so we'll start.
Yeah, thanks, Sandra. Maybe I can give an overview on the conditions and actors. I guess for those not familiar with Australia, we're really in a privileged position to make use of Earth observation. We're in the Southern Hemisphere, in the Asia-Pacific region, and we're the world's 6th largest country and have a diverse set of environments, from large cropping areas to forests to coastal and aquatic areas, but also being very close to the Antarctic. So we're really primed to exploit Earth observation. And in fact, it's got a value of about $5 billion annually to GDP to Australia. And if we look at the Asia-Pacific economy, this is over 500 billion. We also have a long traction in using Earth observation from satellites and a strong reputation as a country in developing Earth observation applications, but also working in calibration and validation of Earth observation missions with ESA and NASA, and leading the development of open data cubes as contribution to global Earth observation programs. And I think there hasn't been a better time for Earth observation and space in general in this country. We recently got our first and only space agency, the Australian Space Agency, founded in 2018, and that has really motivated and grown the, I guess, the activity in space. And Earth observation is a priority area for investment in Australia. They have selected as one. They're putting together a roadmap for activity for the country on Earth observation. So that is extremely positive development. In terms of actors, as I said, there's a lot of activity, and we have a lot of expertise in government, and we've got a federated system. So there's a federal government, and there are also state governments. There's capability across all of those entities, and also in universities and in industry. If we look at government key actors, for example, are Geoscience Australia, who are the national public geoscience organization, and they're a key user of Earth observation, but also a provider of infrastructure and strong analytic tools. A good example is Digital Earth Australia, that is a program, but also based on a open data cube. So it provides a lot of analytics and services that industry, for instance, here in Australia, can start to exploit to build their applications on Earth observation. On defense are another key actor, of course, user of Earth observation. And if we look at the research front and in collaboration with industry, FrontierSI, we do a lot of work, particularly in application markets, so connecting current user and prospective users to Earth observation and the opportunities that it can bring. So a lot of discovery work there. There's also the SmartSat CRC. It's a cooperative research center that brings together industry, universities, and government, but also end users. So they're also having a focus in one of their 3 areas is also Earth observation. And as I mentioned, in the States as well, we're seeing some activity hosted in different centers, such as in Queensland, which is in the northeast, one of the states. There's the Queensland Earth Observation Hub that it's about to commence. There is a lot of expertise in that part of the country, and that's going to be channeled through the hub. But also opposite in Western Australia, on the other side, on the west, there's the Australian Space Data Analytics Facility, which obviously is going to also have an Earth observation focus. And from an organization point of view as well, it's worth mentioning Earth Observation Australia. They're at an individual level, an organization that where all EO experts in the country sort of provide expertise and advocate and work with all of the other actors.
So we can tell that there's a lot of variety and a lot of dynamism in Australia, and
definitely
that's well to know. So in that sense, what are the most promising sectors that can benefit from Earth observation?
Yeah, there are many, and in fact at FrontierSI we've just recently released a number of reports that capture needs and problems from Australian end users in agriculture and in mining. So I welcome everyone to go and have a look. They're published on our website, but also a really interesting upcoming one on finance and insurance sector and how they can benefit from Earth observation. This is a key area that's growing around risk management and sustainability reporting. And I think looking at climate change and all of the challenges that we've got globally, it's going to continue to grow. So a very important area for Earth observation to play a role there. Nationally, we've got challenges because of our geography, and bushfire management is a key one. You will all have seen in the last 2 years ago the devastating bushfires, and Earth observation is primed to provide support there as well and to help with managing and monitoring bushfires. Water monitoring is another one because of the scarcity of water monitoring and our geography. So that emphasis on looking at inland water, coastal water, the quality of the water, but also, I guess, volume and understanding the dependencies of that. Growing area also on urban planning and monitoring. And another promising one connected before is around natural capital metrics for finance and insurance. And this is an area where some of the European companies maybe have some advantage through the European Union Common Agricultural Policy Framework. So that could be an area perhaps to look at as potential good market position for European SMEs.
And then focusing precisely on this European side and maybe talking about the European contribution. As we all know, Copernicus services are also offered. You have access to the Copernicus services in Australia. Is there a demand in Australia on the imagery and on the services?
Yeah, definitely, and it is growing, and Copernicus data is widely used, and we see some very good examples. We've got the Copernicus Australasia hub here, and so there's a number of cases that you can see that are being developed. For instance, if we look at the satellites themselves or the data provision themselves, Sentinel-2 is being used for things such as fire stability mapping, so connected to that bushfire, monitoring all of the stages of bushfire, really, because it's from preparing to real time to what happens once the fire has finished and what has been the damage that has been caused. Also in pasture biomass estimation as well, connected to agriculture. And there's growing interest as well on SAR, so Sentinel-1, for land surface deformation, but also for surface deformation for carbon capture and storage monitoring. And then we're looking at soil moisture modeling as well. In terms of accessing the data, and this is, I guess, probably reflective of the demand, there are a number of ways in which industry and researchers here are accessing the data. Obviously, the Copernicus Australasia Hub being one of them. But through Digital Earth Australia, the program I mentioned before, we're seeing companies being able to access this Sentinel and Copernicus data through that analytics platform and to build services and and applications through there. Also, Google Earth Engine offers that possibility, but we are seeing also direct downloads from ESA. So it's an interesting point to see that users of the data are finding their way through the different avenues.
And talking precisely about these different avenues, did you see this Copernicus tool as a possible door opener for creating partnerships between Australians and European SMEs?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question. Differently, the access to the data is a starting point. When it comes to ways to finance mechanisms for partnership, Australian and European entities, I think there has been some limitations in the past. Obviously, the avenues have been there, so Horizon 2020 as an example, but the execution and practicality of implementing that avenue has been limited. There's now Horizon Europe as well, so we would envisage that is a pathway for collaboration as well, as European entities seek to achieve funding on their end. And on our end in Australia, connected to this growth in space interest and space funding at national and also at the states level, I think the Australian government has export grants for Australian companies, and also most states are really trying to attract talent and space companies here into Australia. So I think that could be a good avenue for European companies willing to expand or willing to partner to start to explore, I guess, the current interest. And I would presume that there will be more and new mechanisms coming up in the next few years.
And talking about precisely these mechanisms, can you tell us some financing mechanisms that are available maybe in Australia to partner with EU companies? Or
yeah, I mean, as I said, I think at the moment it's mainly incentives for Australian companies to develop their own. I think this project that we have here, ConnectEO, is going to be a great seed to discover, I guess, and to tap into what's existing and to consolidate that through example of European companies that will come to Australia with the missions, and then to connect them with equivalent Australian companies. So I would really see us doing a little bit of the groundwork here, creating an initial pathway, and hopefully this can be an example to then replicate and enhance in the future.
Yeah, we need to exactly plant that seed so this relationship could, can foster in the future. And talking as well about this financial mechanism, this takes me to my last question regarding the focus of our project, that is maritime and agriculture sector. Do you see precisely these growing in Australia using Earth observation applications?
Yeah, absolutely. I think agriculture is a clear one, and I mentioned a couple of projects there. This is an area where we have some companies already established and growing here, and also going international. But there is room for more. We're seeing an area of growth on insurance products used by farmers in things such multi-peril insurance types, looking at asset insurance, so things like shed, understanding where the location of things are in the farm and what are the risks, I guess, connected to things like climate change related events, etc. Definitely growing. So how do we incorporate climate risk also into finance, that risk modeling on farm and on the assets? In maritime, I think at the moment it is not adopted broadly. For instance, if we look at SAR as an example, there are some pilots, and this is an area where government and defense would have interest. There are some pilots looking at maritime monitoring applications for individual vessel identification. But it hasn't really been adopted broadly. So I think SAR is definitely going to be another area of expansion in the maritime domain in particular as well, that we haven't yet, it's not yet understood all of the needs and requirements, but I think there will be potential to grow there.
Great. That is a very promising take, a message to take. And with this, we thank you, Eva, for all this information that you provided to us. We're going to leave as well all these links that FrontierSI can offer us in the description box. So please feel free as well to follow us on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and also on this YouTube channel. Also, please look at FrontierSI website and social media, and let's stay tuned for the new activities that ConnectEO has in this incoming future. So thank you, Eva.
Thank you, Sandra. Lovely to talk to you, and great to talk to all of the ConnectEO stakeholders.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and see you all very soon in another interview. Bye-bye.